Hello there, welcome to Twice. In this video I'd like to speak a little bit about Uranus in Taurus from the point of view of esoteric astrology, or drawing upon what Uranus in esoteric astrology is. So when it comes to Uranus, there are quite divergent ideas regarding what this planet is about, because it is so enigmatic in a way, and it is such a strange planet. This planet was, of course, challenging the status quo when it was discovered, because at that time it was thought that Saturn was the last planet in the solar system, and it represented the boundaries of the solar system, of our universe, so to speak. And when Uranus was discovered, it was also in the wake of the French Revolution and in the age of enlightenment, and therefore Uranus came to be associated with revolutionary thought, and also with people that are different and that think differently and that look for freedom. And of course it is also recognized even in astrology, those who think about the whole thing and compare it with how things become, that it's you know, creating change in a person's consciousness, creating real change, you know, from within, is another thing than changing society, in the sense that one group takes power and the other loses it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person has changed, or that people has changed at the consciousness level and that they are different, but they will do exactly the same thing as the oppressors before them. And therefore Uranus is not necessarily a planet that will create that deep change in the individual. Even in sociology, it has been recognized that indeed the French Revolution did change power structures, but when the feudal system fell and the king lost power, it was the middle class that took it instead. An Uranian person also wants to stand out, and sometimes this person wants to be different for the sake of being different, and this person might even have something to prove. In the worst case scenario, in its lowest vibration, we are talking about a villain. In its highest vibration, we might even talk about the opposite of the villain, of course, a hero. Uranus is, of course, the planet of radical differences. It is the coldest planet in our solar system, and it has sideways rotation, and it has its poles at the equator, and therefore it is believed that it was hit by some meteor which kind of changed its rotation. So it says a little bit about the nature of the Uranian person as well. This person has been impacted and is now has awakened, in a sense, that life could be different, society could be different, that we can create another type of world. And even though Uranus is very much about the intellect and about our mind and genius and invention, it is also a planet that has an association with the realm of magic. In a sense, it's about predicting the future. It is about astrology. It is about accepting that there is a higher order in the universe, and it opens up individuals up to channeling and to intuition. So therefore you have the genius and you have the psychic or the channeler. at the other end, so at the continuum. And you have magic people trying to work with energy, and you have the scientists which can create things that for us, if we go back in the past, it would seem like magic, you know, when you don't know, you know, like what's a computer, what's a mobile phone, and so on. For a person in the past, it would be magic, you know. But it's also about harnessing, you know, different materials, capabilities, and so on, you know, whatever people use to make this technology work. So it is indeed art. And therefore, you know, you have this opposites within Uranus. You also have the individual, which is different, and you have also the group at the other end of the continuum. So this is a planet with radical changes inherent in itself. And Uranus is also associated, as well as Aquarius, with archetypes. And it is also believed that Uranus, in esoteric astrology at least, has the ability to create new types of archetypes as well, because it pushes us in the future. And maybe you don't only have, you know, the person that meditates, that gets in touch with other realms, but you might have the cosmonaut, you know, that is actually traveling in a spaceship in the universe. And even if this planet stands for freedom at the political level, Uranus might sometimes have to do with dictatorship, and at the social level with bureaucracy. Actually, in one of the books that I read about esoteric astrology, the author, Alan Oak, I believe, or was it another one, I don't really remember, but this author wrote that whenever you see Uranus, you should look for a source of authority and power. And one of the reasons is, even if Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius at the personality level, at the soul level, it is the ruler of Libra, and Libra has to do with authority, because Libra is the law. So whenever you have, let's say, Uranus in Pisces, the authority might be a priest or even the police, because Pisces' ability to get away with stuff is often also associated with criminality. Actually, even Neptune at some level, where certain astrologers definitely believe that Neptune is also a planet of criminality, because people can use the power of Neptune to actually do all kinds of criminal things, you know, like forgeries and so on. And some astrology even see the entire sign of Pisces as a sign of deep materialism, where the lower desires truly dominate, because people don't see what's truly important because of Neptune, and they would you know, kind of get infused, you know, in the material realm a little bit too much, and they are looking for pleasures, you know, that come from food, from money, from what money can buy, luxury items, and all these kinds of things, everything creating an illusion that life is good and abundant, and that we are happy, when in reality there are deep wounds and that we are trying to cover up. And they believe that the age of Aquarius is much better. And of course, with Aquarius being a sign of groups of people, there is always emphasis on communist ideas and you often see the Leo Aquarius axis very much interested in the groups of people and how to control groups, how to get to group power, to work together, and the group mind. But of course there are those that believe that the group is nothing else but very large and stupid animal, because whenever you are part of a group, like in a riot, in the most extreme example, people lose their sense of individuality and awareness and sense of self, and also of responsibility, and therefore they can blame the group for anything that they do, so they stop taking responsibility for their own actions. But anyway, for some reason, some astrologers do believe that through Aquarius, people can attain some type of true state of brotherhood, and that materialism can be overcome, you know, and I believe that people will eventually have to evolve to that type of being where they are a little bit more detached from materialism and a little bit more interested in philosophies and what makes a good life, you know, in working with oneself and with the group and so on. But on the other hand, people have to be ready, because, you know, when Karl Marx wrote his book about the capitalists that were taking all the values and they were using these workers and so on, that created the value but didn't get anything in return, or very little, you know, for their effort and so on. He didn't say, you know, let's change the world, that let's create communist states. Instead, he said that the next stage in human development would be communism, actually, because he said that history has always been the history of the class struggle, and different classes have always struggled with each other, and right now it was the proletarians and the capitalists that were fighting with each other, and in the end the next stage would come when humanity would be ready, you know. So it was not, he was a philosopher, he wasn't the reason for the rise of communism, but people actually kind of wanted to force the change to happen, and so many people were enslaved before the time of you know, this type of possible you know, communism, where people are ready, where they have developed that state of mind, will come. And you can agree, many people can agree, you know, that even those that might have communist ideas and they like the communist ideology, you know, there's still this egoism there, you know. I work for something and it is mine, I deserve it, and so on, and nobody should have a free ride. But if you think about it, even in democracies, you know, and in capitalist societies, so many people are free riders anyway, and the law is not impartial. If you are rich in the United States, where most people go to prison for almost anything, you know, you have the rich people having very low sentences, and also having the possibility to go in prisons, you know, that are pretty nice and good, and it's like having a prolonged vacation, you know. So it's you know, everyone should have the same punishments and so on, if society would be you're really equal when it comes to equal opportunity and so on. And it's not true. If you are born into a rich family, you have more money to send your children to schools, you know, outside your countries, even learn many languages, have more experience, and also you can pay better schools for them and so on. So definitely capitalism is not really about equal opportunity. It's about the richer always having more opportunity and more life chances. And when it comes to Taurus, then Taurus, everyone knows how Taurus is supposed to be, that they are down to earth, they are practical and calm, and they are patient and reliable, and they like luxury. Of course, they like beautiful things. They can create beauty because they are ruled by Venus, and Taurus is the sign of desire at its lowest level, but at the highest level it is about illuminating. And if you look back at the last transit of Uranus through Taurus, at the societal level, you know, a lot of cleansing was done by Hitler, of course, by Stalin, and also Japan, when so many people were killed, and they got rid of the Jews. They confiscated everything they owned, you know, like material stuff, and then they you know, in Stalin's communism, they also did a deep cleansing of people, and there were some people that were communists that believed in the ideology, and still they were not they were not believed to be what the state wanted, and there was fear regarding those people, so they are also sent to death camps and so on. And you had Japan enslaving China and the Chinese people, and doing all kinds of horrible experiments of on them, you know. And Uranus in Taurus is in its fall, and therefore whenever a planet is in its fall, there might be some karma associated with it. But Taurus at the highest level, it's the sign of the Buddha, so it is all about illumination. And Uranus is about the future. It is a futuristic planet. It's a planet of invention. And you will see, if you look back also in history, when Uranus was last time in the sign of Taurus, you know, Hitler, of course, came to power. Hitler had his first meeting with Mussolini, and then later on he became eventually the Chancellor of Germany, and he took power, and everything started, you know. But you saw that there was a revolution when it comes to trains, railways, subways in the world, and also bridges. The San Francisco bridges or bridge, I don't know if there are many or just one within the movies. I've never been there. And also in the New York bridge, you know, they were all built in that time. And also planes, you know, planes came, new planes were introduced, and also there were you know, trains and railways and subways, and this included, of course, also Russia. And therefore, if you use the energy of Uranus in the right way, you don't go back, you know, you move forward. You are trying to illuminate, you are trying to, you're not repeating the same mistakes, so to speak, because it's quite difficult when a planet is in its fall, because Germany indeed confiscated lots of things from the Jews, and murdered so many people. But then Russia and USA came and destroyed Germany, you know. And it came pretty quickly, the karma and all. And also when it comes to Japan, they received 2 atom bombs from the United States as well. So Uranus in its lowest energy also wants kind of everything. And the very strange thing about the Uranus, you know, Uranus at the soul level rules Libra, and it's also ruled by the 7th ray in esoteric astrology, and the symbol for the 7th ray is the swastika. And this was what Hitler was using. So he was indeed using concepts from esoteric astrology. And I believe that even though he was so much into magic and this archetypal concepts and symbols and all that, and he believed in the power of symbols, at the same time I believe that he banned and even killed astrologers. But what Hitler did, of course, was also that he looked back at his ancestral roots, and he was trying to create that perfect Aryan race and all those things, you know. So he was very much focused on the past, and Uranus is not about the past, it is rather about the future. And therefore, to stop repeating the same mistakes over and over again, it is quite important that people try to look into the future. They're trying to create something new, to create evolution, instead of instead of creating some type of regression, because regression doesn't go well with Uranus. And it's Uranus can be about creating new archetypes and not going back to old ones. And this is all that I wanted to say about this transit. Thank you for watching.